Lords and ladies, welcome back to something a little bit different this time. A little bit more relaxed. A little bit more of just a conversation, of a chat. Today, I'm going to be finally tier listing and ranking based on my personal enjoyment and opinions of the game. The Final Fantasy main series 1 through 16. Now, straight away you'll see that there's two extra columns down here. One being MMO, just never been my cup of tea. I've not played any of the MMO FF titles. If you enjoy them, fair enough. I've heard 14 is absolutely brilliant. It's just never been something I've ever wanted to get into. I've ever wanted to play. It's just, I don't know, it's never been my cup of tea really. And then underneath that you'll see not played. I do own 13 and Lightning Returns. I just haven't got around to actually playing them yet. And 12 Revenant Wings, I think, was a Nintendo DS game. At least it was the last time I saw it, and as a result I've never played that myself neither. But if it's anything like 12, it's not something I'd really want to play. But with that out of the way, small disclaimer, I might say things in this video that people don't agree with, that other players of the Final Fantasy series don't agree with. And as we know, that's absolutely fine. Everyone has different enjoyments and different opinions on games when it comes to any gaming series. But if there's anything you would, you change, or you'd like to, jump in on and mention, feel free to leave us a comment. Just let us know your thoughts, your opinions, what you might have done slightly different. If there's something you massively disagree, I'll put in one tier and it should be in another one, and your reasons why. Then I'm always open to discussion, right? Always open to discussion. So, without further ado, let's get this underway. Now, I'm going to do this chronologically. We'll go 1 through 16. We're going to work our way up. Work our way up? Yeah, we're just going to work our way. So, to nobody's surprise, Final Fantasy 1, straight in D tier, right? Yes, it's the grandfather of the series. When it came out, it was essentially a single-player D&D, right? Now, I know in newer versions, the PSP release, for example, or even Strangers of Paradise, even though Strangers of Paradise is technically a prequel. You can't see, I'm doing little inverted commas there. But it's still not fantastic, right? The PSP release, yes, it fixed a few small things, right? It made a few things a little bit easier. I think there was another release that made things even easier than that. I think it was the Game Boy Advance release didn't have a limit on the spell charges learned for mages, so you can get all of them up to 99. I think by the time you hit level 50 or so. Whereas the PSP release followed more the original. You capped at 10 charges for each magic level. Now, obviously, one with it being the first one, way back when, the granddaddy, the OG. There's no character progression, right? There's no character depth. There's very little story. The areas and the music are still beautiful, and you can see the ideas there within the game for what comes later on in the series, right? It's where it all started. You've got your basic jobs, you've got your crystals, you've got your archfiends, you've got your time paradoxes, your big bad villain, your princesses, pirates, your ships, your airships. Even Bahamut was in Final Fantasy 1, even though he just asked you to go to a castle and get a rat's tail. But it was there. The premise and the idea for everything that came later was can all be seen in Final Fantasy 1. It just, as time passes, you can really tell that quality of game isn't fantastic. If you're looking for a quick, 10 to 15 hour game to play, Final Fantasy 1, 100%. 100% one of the easiest ones you can do in that time. and one I would still rather play than 2. 2, you know, they had success with 1, and they decided they wanted to try and reinvent the wheel a little bit. They completely changed the leveling system, which becomes a habit that you'll see as this progresses. That they have a habit of changing lots of little things and trying to, you know, hammer a square peg into a round hole, especially with some of them. And 2 is like that. Now 2, the characters were a little bit more fleshed out, the story's a little bit more fleshed out. The Emperor, just like the villain in 1, just like Garland, right? The Emperor, fantastic. But we see more of the Emperor than we do Garland, so the Emperor's a little bit better. Garland is probably technically the strongest villain from any Final Fantasy series, any Final Fantasy game, full stop. Garland is Big Daddy. He is top dog, right? He is the strongest. Let's be real, right? We're going to use 1 and 2 here, right? The Emperor went to hell, beat up everything there, came back. Garland was back in the past, sent things back to the future. I sent him back to the past. Garland perfected time manipulation until the chain is broken. It's beautiful. But that's got nothing to do with 2. 2's major problem, it wasn't the story. The story's fine, I think, anyway. I quite like the story, right? My biggest gripe with 2 is the constant changing of temporary party members. And we've got Minwu, we've got Joseph, we get Richard, we get that pirate captain who I can't remember the name of. I want to call her Lyle, but it might not be. Before we eventually get Leon, our official 4th party member, way too late in the game. But 2 gets to go ahead of 1 just because of the fact the character in 2 can speak Beaver, which is something that's never been done in the game since. Nobody else can speak Beaver. That is a guy exclusive ability, and I think that's beautiful. Now 2 did have some good points going for it, a lot more good points than 1, which I think a lot of people tend to forget, right? A lot of people tend to focus on 2's leveling system and the whole, you know, your magic goes up the more you cast it, your attack will go up the more you attack, your health and defense will go up the more you get hit. And yeah, that's not a fantastic leveling system, right? It's not the best. It's just straight up not. But it works still within the game. But I really like the password system. The password system in 2, I thought was just fantastic. First time I played it, I couldn't believe what I was seeing. I was saving passwords and repeating them to other people. But it still falls flat compared to a lot of other Final Fantasies in the series. Now, the best of the early ones for me, hands down, is Final Fantasy 3. Again, it's another one where the protagonists and the villain aren't very fleshed out. The world is a little bit more fleshed out. Your main characters really aren't. You're just 4 orphans, right? The trope continues. 4 random orphans blessed by the crystal. And 3 was the first time experimenting with job classes, being able to make the party what you wanted it to be. Obviously in 1, you pick your 4, you stay that way till you get the Rat's Tail for Bahamut, and you get the upgraded versions of them class, but you essentially play the game the same way all the way through. Final Fantasy 2, anybody can use anything, but we all know we make Maria a black mage, Byron gets to be a white mage with 2 swords, Kai gets to use 2 swords, and when we get Leon further in the game, he gets to use 2 swords, and that is it. Where in 3, if I wanted to use a ninja, a dark knight, a black mage, and a summoner together, I could. You could experiment with different job classes and different setups for each boss. Now, yeah, some of the job classes a bit useless. They introduced the scholar job class just to deal with Hein. And what happened? It wasn't needed at all. You don't need it. but still the idea was there. Now with these three here in the D tier, if you're a newer Final Fantasy fan and you want to go back and play some of the older ones, I would highly recommend playing the PSP version of 1 and 2 and the DS version of 3. The DS version of 3 is technically, I think it's supposed to be the hard version. The same treatment that Final Fantasy 4 got, wherever that may be. I've lost it. Same treatment as Final Fantasy 4 here got, but the DS making it the hard version. But honestly, it's not that much harder. And it adds a lot more depth to the characters and the side characters in them versions. But speaking of DS versions and Final Fantasy 4, what we're going to get here, we're getting our first S tier, right? Final Fantasy 4, for me, is where you can see the idea really start to come together. Everything is perfection. The characters, the story, the world building, the bosses, all of it is absolutely beautiful in Final Fantasy 4. That's really where it clicked. You could see you see and feel all the cogs just slotting into place and just moving beautifully together. All of it was absolutely fantastic. It was also the first one to give us 5-man parties. Now, in Final Fantasy 4, again, it's another one where they try to change things up ever so slightly with the leveling system. I think it's once you hit after level 60, I'm not sure if it happens at level 60 or level 61, but one of them two, the stat increases are random. Your stat increases can also include a stat decrease. I think it's also the only one I know where your characters can be too fast for the ATB gauge in the original. Again, Final Fantasy 4's got a beautiful PSP release, really good Nintendo 3DS release as well for the hard mode, both of which are fantastic. Final Fantasy 4, for anybody who's not played it and is starting to get into Final Fantasy or wants to check Final Fantasy out, right? I know everybody always says start with 6 or start with 7 or start with 10, right? No, go back and start with 4. Go back and start with 4, right? It is the pinnacle of Final Fantasy, in my opinion, right? It really doesn't get much better than that. And even in this list, even for myself, there's not many that get better than that aren't just nostalgia fueled, right? But sometimes you can get fantasticness and years later down the line they give you trash. Final Fantasy IV The After Years, which was the sequel to Final Fantasy IV that came with the PSP release, where you play Theodore, I believe, Cecil and Kane's son. Cecil and Kane's son, yeah, Cecil and Kane Thomas, yeah. Cecil and Rose's son, right? And honestly, I've played it, I beat it, wasn't a fan of it. I believe the original release for it is the same as what the Steam port is, which was the Wii U, I believe, and it was released in episode format. If I remember correctly, it was an episodic release. If you want to play that again, I would just wholeheartedly recommend the PSP release, right? There's really good emulators out there now. You can find that no problem whatsoever. Does it compare to the original 4? No, not really. It suffers from itself, right? It gives you far too many characters. Even though everyone just sticks to the same 5 by the time you get to the last story in the game, right? But sometimes even greatness has its shadows. Now, another game that you don't see many people talking about that I also rate really highly is Final Fantasy V. Final Fantasy V obviously was Return of the Job class system. Total cliche of wandering swordsman, 2 princesses and a king, journeying to save the world. I've just realised I haven't even spoken on Final Fantasy IV's bosses. Let's drop 5 a second, right? Let's go back. Let's rewind a little bit, right? So, Final Fantasy IV's bosses. Golbez. I really like Golbez. Yeah, the mind control trope with Kain gets boring after a little while, right? But I really like Golbez. Zeramus is introduced very late into the story. It's a fun fight. A very fun fight, to be honest. But it's still... Zeramus is still introduced early enough in the story that he's not just dropped on you as a total surprise, like Necron in Final Fantasy IX, for example. Right? Like, we know he's there. It's sort of like Yuri Yevon in 10. Yuri Yevon's mentioned well before the final fight. Well before the final showdown with Shin. Zeramus is the same in 4. And honestly, Golbez's redemption attempt with Fusoya, beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Last dungeon's a bit of a slog, with not many save points, but it's a final dungeon, man. You don't want it too easy. But as I was saying with 5. 5 is A tier, right? I don't care what anybody says. The characters are fantastic. The story is fantastic. The bosses is fantastic. The introduction of Gilgamesh. Battle on the big bridge. Galuf and Bart realising that Faris is a girl after thinking she was a male pirate. You know, the whole losing a party member permanently, but your party's still trying to revive him, still trying to use Phoenix Downs and life and cure on Galuf. Final Fantasy V does everything. And what it does exceptionally well, though, is it's the next installment. It's the second installment of the job class system. And 5 nails it. 5 absolutely nails it, right? 5 knocks it out the park with the job class system. It is, hands down, one of the better systems in any Final Fantasy. I don't care what anybody says. I'll die on this hill. Final Fantasy V's job class system offers you so much freedom and so much fluidity that anything is possible. It's the same as 3, but with more chucked in. Unique abilities limited to the job. Unique sprites, which 3 had as well, obviously, but the unique abilities, not so much. The weapon draw off, right? But at the same time, it opened up the possibilities for boss fights. Final Fantasy V is one of the few games I've ever managed to make Goblin Punch useful at the beginning of the game, because it gives you it early enough as a blue mage to make it worth your while to actually use. Honestly, it's such a good game. Now, next one should come with no surprise, Final Fantasy VI. That is also A tier, right? Does it go in front of 5 for me, though? Do I rate 6 higher than 5? You know what? I do. Yeah, I do. There's a reason 6 is hailed as one of the best entries in the series, right? It has absolutely everything, from epic fights to epic music, the world building, the characters. Although at the same time as saying the characters is one of the things going for it, the main cast of characters. It does get a little bit bloated towards the end. You know, you got your Go-Go's, your Amaros, Mog. And it's the only one that's got a playable Moogle in it, though, that dances to kill its enemies, which is also pretty cool. But 6 does everything. 6 is as close to a complete Final Fantasy as you're going to get, but unfortunately it just doesn't edge out 4 for us as being an S rank, an S tier. There's just something missing from it. Well, not missing. I think it's just more the fact that in 6 with the Magicite system, characters sort of, unless you're going to impose heavy restrictions on yourself, you know, not allow characters to learn all the magics from all the espers, and only use the ones that apply how would I word this? Apply the appropriate level up bonus. Yeah, that's right. Then all your characters just become copy paste magic users. That's it. And that sort of pulls us back a little bit. If the Magicite ability was only for the characters you've got who could already cast magic, so Terra, Celis, Strago, Realm, right? If that was the case and only them four could learn the magic off the Magicite, and the other characters could just get the stat boost off it, it would be an automatic S rank then, right? Absolutely automatic S tier. But since it's not, it's got to go in A. It's too easy for the characters to lose their identity in battle and have everyone just going down to magic and just dropping ultimas. You know, the tools go out, the blitzers go out, the Bushidos, the rages, the Mog dancers, the slots. All of it disappears unless you self-restrict for your Magicite, right? That's my biggest problem with it. Now, the characters in it, like I touched on slightly, right? A couple of them are a bit kind of like, I don't see why he's here, but sure, well, why not, right? It's Final Fantasy, right? It happens. You know, totally understandable. But the villain, Kefka, absolutely one of my favorite, if not my favorite Final Fantasy villain of all time. Kefka is completely and utterly nuts. He succeeds in his plan. He gets the statues, he disrupts them, he takes over the world, he starts destroying the world. Anything that disagrees with him, bam, he takes out with a blinding ray of light. Gone. Obliterated. Plus, you know, 6 gets bonus points for being able to kill Sid with Celis by feeding them horrible fish. You know, that's always a bonus. Now, where I think there's going to be a few issues here, right, is when we get to this next part. And I take Final Fantasy VII here, right, and I put that in the B tier. I put that in the B tier below 6 and 5 and 4. And not for no reason. Final Fantasy VII is a fantastic game. The materia system is great. The characters and character development is great. The story's great. The world building's fantastic. Even the side quests are fun. But what kills 7 for me is the over milking of the game. You know, as a standalone game, 7 is absolutely fantastic, right? But did it need everything else that followed? Did it need Crisis Core? Did it need Dirge? Did it need Ever Crisis? Did it need First Soldier? Did it need Advent Children? Did it need Before Crisis? Did it need the remakes? Right? It became Square's cow. Anytime they needed something that was going to boost sales, they slapped 7 on the front of it. And away it went. It pains us to put it this low, but because of that, I mean, I haven't got much choice really. It's a hard one to put that low. I mean, some of the characters in it are some of my favourite characters from the entire series of games. Sephiroth is a fantastic villain. He's no Kefka. But is anybody Kefka? No, they're not. But Sephiroth's still a really good villain. But the whole problem, like I say, is it's been milked to oblivion. That and the fact I don't understand why people forgive 7 for its sloppy writing of Cloud baiting. Oh, hey, sorry guys, I lost my memory. I lied to you this entire game. I'm not really who I said I was. Yet holds it against 8 for their orphanage scene. They both have crap excuses. They both do the same thing. They both still continue on with their resolve. But one's more accepted than the other. And that's because I think a lot of people have only played, well, maybe it's not only played 7, but a lot of people played 7 and then they decided to make that their standard of Final Fantasy. Which, yeah, that's fine. Do that, right? I understand 7 is possibly the most beloved Final Fantasy game in the series, next to 10. But at the same time, I'm just not as big a fan. Now, yeah, I've done a full playthrough, a full walkthrough of 7, and I'm sort of doing a new threat one, right? But that's just because of some of the changes in the new threat. That's probably going to get trimmed down from the point I'm at now to the end of the game of purely just boss fights, right? But I don't know, it's just 7 just doesn't hold that place for us anymore. I don't know what it is. It's just a major B tier, man. But it's probably because it's the only thing I've heard Final Fantasy fans say for the last, what, nearly 30 years, is how great 7 is, and how no other games is good, until they got to 10, and then they realised 10 was fantastic. But there's 10 discussions that people won't even attempt, and I never see people being called out for. Now, after putting 7 in B tier here, right, while still enjoying the game, enjoying the characters, enjoying the villains, enjoying the material system, I'm going to shock absolutely everybody here, right? I'm putting 8 as my number 1, right? That's not going to change. This is completely nostalgia blinded. 8 was, when I was a child, 8 was the first one I actually finished on PS1. 7 we lent off a friend of the family, and I never had a chance to finish it before we give them it back. 8 was ours. It was mine and me dad's copy, and I finished 8. I figured out the junction system. I got the hang of the story, the mechanics, and I finished it at a young age. And because of that, like anybody will tell you, right, the first Final Fantasy game you finish, right, it always holds up higher than any other Final Fantasy game. 8's story is fantastic, right? I don't see it. There's no problems with it. People love to hate and rag on the orphanage scene, but like I've just said, that's any different to Cloud deciding that Cloud's a clone, and he forgot all his memories, and he's lied to the entire party. Squall never lied. Squall and the gang never lied. They just couldn't remember. I just don't understand why Cloud's saying, "Oh, Mark will poison him." Is any difference to them turning around and saying, "Oh, wait, studies have shown that using the GF can cause issues like this. It's one of the risks we get for using its power." It's like, yeah, we need that power, dude. Now, I know a lot of people don't like 8. I love 8. Like 8's so good. Triple Triad as well. Triple Triad is hands down the best Final Fantasy minigame they've ever came up with. And I really don't care what anybody says about that. The music is fantastic. I mean, Man with the Machine Gun especially. Man with the Machine Gun is beautiful. Final boss, Ultimecia, or Ultimecia, depending how you want to say it. I enjoy that fight. I enjoy the final boss in 8, right? I think she's a good boss. I love the randomness of not being able to choose who gets pulled into battle. You could spend the entire game just using Squall over Irvin, and suddenly you're in the final fight. They're your 3 characters at the junction. They're the 3 characters you've leveled up. Or not leveled up in the case of 8, which I still hate the people's arguments for, you know, not leveling in 8, but that's a completely different subject and a completely different chat, right? But the final fight, you can get your characters that you've never used, you've never touched, no weapon upgrades, no junctions, no magic. And you stood there, facing off against the final boss with nothing. Now where 8 does lose points for me is, it's hard to explain. It's not a perfect game, right? No, I don't think any game can ever be a perfect game, right? 8 might be my favourite, but that doesn't mean it's perfect. It doesn't mean it does everything right. My only problem, my only issue with 8, if I'm being completely honest, is the chocobo forests are a bit of a pain in the ass the first time you do them. After that, they're just tedious, but at first they're a bit of a pain. and the super bosses are fairly easy. But again, this is another one where they reinvented the wheel. Enemies level up as you level up. People all over the internet will tell you, well, if you're playing 8, don't level up. It makes the game harder. It makes the enemies stronger. Like, only random battles are stronger, but if you are drawing and junctioning and carding and card modding for junctions properly and efficiently and learning the abilities your espers need to know, those random battles, whether you're a level 100 or level 1, should pose no threat. The bosses are level capped. The final boss, Ultimacia, is capped at 65. The first boss of the game, Ifrit, is capped at 9. Now that rule does break for Diablo, I believe, who is level 100, and I believe the brothers can also hit 100. Not including super bosses, obviously. Ultimate Weapon or Mega Weapon, obviously they can be 100. I think the only other ones that breach that are Diablo and the brothers, because technically they are optional. You don't have to open the magic lamp, you don't have to finish the Tomb of the Unknown King. Yeah, Bahamut might fall into that as well, actually, because Bahamut again is optional. Maybe it's a Jumbo Cactuar, but now we come on to another highly debated Final Fantasy, another one that people can't decide whether they like the storybook setting and the return to a full-on medieval from steampunk, and that is Final Fantasy IX. Final Fantasy IX, again, is an A-tier game. Let's see, 7 here would be up here. It'd be like here, but it would be up here if it wasn't for the reasons I stated. 9 beats out 5 for me. It doesn't beat out 6. No, do you know what? 9 story and characters, I feel, because it's not as bloated, the character list isn't as bloated, beats out 6, right? Hands down. 9 is a fantastic game. I love the ability system. 9 loses massive points for the dropping Necron out of nowhere when you beat Transcusia. That was just bullshit. Absolute bullshit. But as many negative points as you give 9, Vivi gets rid of them all, and so does Chocobo Hot and Cold, right? I love the return to the medieval setting. The knights, the princesses, the queens, the kings, airships, chocobos. I mean, obviously airships and chocobos are in the rest of them. Kings, queens, knights, not so much unless you're counting Sorceress Knights from 8, which we're not. But that medieval setting, that cozy feeling, the storybook set, the storybook look of the game, it all just works so beautifully together for the story that it tells, and I think that's absolutely fantastic and well deserving, in my opinion, in my personal enjoyment, of A tier. Not quite anything above. Now, it does suffer from the same problem as 7 does, I feel, with the super bosses. The sort of lackluster once you know what you're doing. I mean, that could be said with them all, to be honest with you. Even the 8 super bosses suffer with that. They're all lackluster if you know what you're doing. But 9 definitely belongs up there. Do you know, I feel bad for 7 being in the B tier. We'll bump 7 up to A tier, right? I'll rescind on 7. I'll give it an A, right? The materia system, all the negative points stand against that, and we should make it be in the B tier, but I'm going to bump it up to A, the very bottom of A, just for the materia system. The materia system is almost as good as the ability system, which is almost as good as the junction system, right? Being that it's a system, the plan is to try and get yourself as broken as possible. 9 and 8, I feel, is a lot better to do that than 7. It requires a lot less grinding than 7 as well, if you want to be truly busted. So the fan base for 7 is a little bit, you know, a little bit toxic. I've seen a lot of stuff of, you know, oh, you can't beat the super bosses without knights around you. You haven't truly beaten them. It's like, mate, fuck off, I've beat them. What difference does it make? Now, the next one, the next game in the list is Final Fantasy X. A lot of people's holy grail next to 7. And it goes there on the A tier. 10 is for me the last true great Final Fantasy. And that could ruffle some feathers, right? And let it ruffle. Let it ruffle. First Final Fantasy game with voice acting. Not that it makes any difference to me whether the characters are voice acted or not, right? I can read. I'm quite okay with having to read. The story, 10 story, I don't mind. I quite enjoy the story. I enjoy the characters. I enjoy the boss. But where 10 falters out of being an S rank to an A rank for me is yet again just the simplest of things. The fact that, you know, it's Glaze has been this fantastically ultimate best Final Fantasy released and totally dwarfs anything that came before and after. And it's just, I don't think it's that good. It's still a great game. Is it the best of the best? Is it the creme de la creme? No, I don't personally think it is. There is parts of the game I don't like. Some of that comes down to the voice acting. Tidus's laugh. Yuna when she's telling us we're going to Jose Temple. Seymour is a fantastic villain. I love Seymour, right? Seymour's really good. But Seymour himself cannot pull 10 up past this point, right? And my one example is going to be the Via Purifico, right? We get chucked in there to die. And then we walk out. We just walk out. I say, I'm sorry. Did we not get chucked in there to die? How have we just walked out? That seems to be a bit of a plot hole. 10 also has another issue that it shares with 13, but Final Fantasy X fans like to pretend that doesn't exist, of it just being a corridor, a hallway simulator. You just walk down a straight, narrow path for the majority of the game. Nothing ever changes. There is no freedom, there's no exploration. You just walk in a straight line where the game lets you. Just like you do in 13. One point I always like to make, right, is 13 actually has a bigger explorable area than 10 does. Just going to throw that out there. 10's biggest explorable area is the Calmlands. 13's is Grand Pulse, which is huge in comparison. It's massive. And speaking of massive areas and massive wastes of time, we have the sand simulator that is Final Fantasy 12. It's still better than 1 and 2. Not as good as 3. Still better than 1 and 2. 12 has the most forgettable story. It has the most forgettable cast. It has the most forgettable areas. I'm not going to touch on, renaming some of the... changing the summons to airships, considering 12 is set in Evil East, the same as Tactics, so it makes sense that their summons follow the same system as Tactics do with the Brave Stones, the Zodiac Stones, right? I don't mind that. I hate the fact they're useless, but I don't mind it. 12's just all forgettable though. There's nothing in 12 that can make you want to go back. The hunt system, the hunt system maybe, right? The hunt system isn't terrible. I didn't mind the hunts for a small challenge. And then you got the Yezamut, and what was it, Famfrit beforehand, and the Hellworm that just stand there. No, the Hellworm, not Famfrit, the Hellworm. And they just stand there and just face tank. And it's like, where's the fun in this? Where's the fun in me setting up a gambit system to keep this going while I just put my controller down and walk away for a couple of hours? Where's the fun? But that is an issue the gambit system had anyway, is the fact that all I had to do was run. I never had to input any commands. I set all my commands out for it to be looped through like a system, like a program. I never had to do anything. It played automatically. Just like changing your character's abilities and setups in Final Fantasy 13. 13, with it being the first Final Fantasy game released on PlayStation 3 and Xbox One, correct us if I'm wrong, but I believe they were the systems it dropped on, had the potential, it had the chance to be huge. And what did they do instead? They gave us female Cloud. A worse version of Cloud as a female. We all know the best version is when we're in Don Corneo's, when we've got to sneak through a wall market. Then they give us Lightning. They rehashed 7's intro with the train fight scene against the Guard Scorpion. They rehashed Cloud's not caring attitude at first, and then he slowly warms up. Now with 13 though, I did enjoy the Eidolon fights. I thought they were quite fun. Other than that, again, suffers from the same problem Ten does at walking down just a long corridor, a long hallway. But it suffers even more from its characters just being... I just don't like any of them. There isn't a single character in 13 that I would sit there and play it and go, I don't mind you, I like you. You say some good stuff. You've got some good character progression and development, and you're not annoying at all. That never happens. It's like the story. I never sit there and enjoy the story, and I'm sorry, if I'm playing a Final Fantasy game, right, I need to at least enjoy the story, right? Graphics don't cut it for me. Although I do enjoy the paradigm system from 13, I really like that. I like being able to tailor my party of 3 to multiple essentially job systems within, you know, Commando, Ravager, Medic, Sentinel, Saboteur, Synergist, I believe they were. I love being able to have a different setup on all of them, and I loved how everybody had different moves that they learned within those trees, even if some of them doubled over at first. I really enjoyed that. I really didn't like not being able to control my other party members though. But the paradigm system could have been fantastic, right? It really could have. It could have been absolutely great. But unfortunately it wasn't. Unfortunately it fell flat. Much like Final Fantasy X-2 did. It's still better than 13 and 1. That's fair. 13 is better than 2 and 1, and 10-2 is better than 13, 1 and 2. 10-2 again, another game that the milked the success and the popularity out of the one before it. Except 10-2 had the chance. The dress fee system, I didn't mind. Right, I did not mind the dress fee system. There was lots of parts of the games that I wasn't a big fan of. Again, the story being another one, the story just didn't really captivate us, right? And that is the main problem. That 13 suffered the same. I need the story to be good. I'm not buying a game. If I'm watching a game trailer and the game looks good, then I'll be like, oh yeah, no, like that looks great, that looks amazing. But if I buy that game and I'm playing it and it can look great, it can look amazing, it could play as fluid as water. If the story and the characters are dog, if they're just absolute dog shite, absolutely terrible, I'm not going to have fun, I'm not going to enjoy myself. I feel that's the problem I had with 10-2. Nothing against it being an all-female cast. Baller, let's go. But at least make it enjoyable. At least, if you're going to struggle to make the story as impactful or as entertaining, then at least in 10-2 we got the job system. The dress phase, right? That was fun. That was entertaining. So I guess that brings us now to a bachelor party gone wrong, which is Final Fantasy 15. Now, I wasn't a big fan of Final Fantasy 15. I'm still not a big fan of Final Fantasy 15. I've played the game, I've done the final dungeon, I've done the DLC, but 15 I feel I've got to put in C tier. Now, I know what you're thinking, right? You're going to be looking at this and going, oh, how have you rated a game that's worse than others higher? And again, this is a weird one. This is a different one, right? The story, not a huge fan of. The characters, not a huge fan of, right? I was sick of the constant chiming all the time in battle and outside of battle. I hated the whole wrestling it in to get your experience, and the combat just the combat just didn't work. It just didn't meld with it. There was never a reason to do anything different. I think the first time I killed the Adamantoise, all I did was warp strike repeatedly for like an hour. Just sat bored, just seeing if it would work, and it did. It was just terrible. And they tried to portray it as this whole, you know, Noctis and Lunafreya and being these big love interests, right? They barely knew each other, dude. But it gets to sit in C tier because that game is where I got my channel name and a lot of my other online nicknames from, which is Daddy Gladdy. At the time I was playing 15, I was very late to the party playing 15, right? I'd had it for a lot of years, just never got round to it. And I'd not long had my third kid. And, you know, she was getting to that age where she starts, you know, after a while, getting older, they get to that age where they start to talk, they start to copy you. And she would sit on my knee while I was playing 15. And there was one day she was pointing, she going, who? And I was like, oh, it's Gladiolus. But she couldn't say Gladiolus. I said, oh, we'll call him Gladdy. There was one time she was sat there and she pointed at the screen, all excited, and went, Daddy Gladdy. Bam. Became my channel name. For that, just for pure memories alone, 15 gets to sit at sea. Very biased opinion. I know. But this is my tier list. So it doesn't really make a difference if it's a biased opinion. It's all a biased opinion. Now, that also brings us to Final Fantasy 16 next, which is going to be a fun one. Now, Final Fantasy 16, admittedly, I'm playing now. I'm about 3/4 of the way through, right? Again, another late to the party one, right? It happens. Things get put on the back burner and they get forgotten about. 16 for me is a C tier game. Top end of the C tier at this moment in time, though. Right? 16 looks beautiful. Graphics fantastic. Music isn't terrible. Combat system is very nice. It's not that the combat system is nice. I do sit there sometimes in battle and look and going, I'm just playing Devil May Cry. Like, if we crossed out 16 there and just changed that to DMC, just Devil May Cry, would it make a difference? Not really. The story, anytime anything exciting happens, we then go on fetch quests and suddenly it gets absolutely boring again. And it's like, why? Why are you giving us these lulls in the combat? After I fought Titan, I should not have been going on a fetch quest to build a ship. We should have just rocked straight through and just kept that momentum, kept that excitement, kept that energy. But it doesn't. And that is one of the reasons that it's so far down on the tier list and it's in the C tier. I understand the love for the game, I really do. The combat system is really nice, but at the same time, I'm just not feeling the story. I'm not feeling the characters. I'm not feeling anything but a overwhelming positivity towards the combat system of Devil May Cry, and that is the issue. Now, that's all I can say on it at the minute. I haven't finished the game yet. I might come back. This might get slightly altered. Might even come back. You might even just see a quick 2-minute video where I move 16's position once I've finished the game. Who knows? We'll see, right? But for now, it needs to stay there. Now, what's going to happen here, though, is I have Remake and Rebirth left, as you can see at the bottom here. Remake and Rebirth. Both of them absolutely going C tier, with Rebirth just slightly ahead of Remake for me. And I know this is like sacrilege, like, oh, this should be S tier. I've realised I don't have any B tier Final Fantasies. Wow, wild. Well, I guess you're either good or you're not really, aren't you? You know, there's no in between, is there? Now, Remake and Rebirth. Why are they in C tier? Why don't I think of them as highly as I think of the other Final Fantasy games? If people are going to turn around and go, it's because you're in your 30s, you're blinded by nostalgia, this, that and the other. And it's not even that. I just never wanted my Final Fantasy VII story retconning to fit with Crisis Core, Dirge and Advent Children. I was happy with them as standalones. I enjoyed those pieces of media as standalones, right, as just spin-offs. I could get behind Crisis Core as just a goofy little spin-off about Zack, a little bit extra story. Not the fact that, you know, Zack was the one that just told Aerith what colour boat away. He's the one that came up with the name of Tifa's bar. Like, did he though? Did he really? But that's all changed now thanks to Remake and Rebirth. And let's not forget, we can't forgive Remake for its cardinal sin of turning Midgar, which is what, 2 to 5 hours tops, to 40 to 50 hours in Midgar. That is so dull. That is so boring. That is terrible. And that's without adding the whispers. That was already sacrilege. Then they added the whispers. The goddamn Dementors from Harry Potter, which just made it, I don't want to say it worse, but it made it a lot harder for me to get behind the story because of it, right? And I know they were like, oh, this is a remake, blah 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 blah, we're going to be remaking Final Fantasy VII, like, and a lot of people are like, oh, you just wanted the original game redone, that's not a remake, that's a remaster. And it's like, no, if they kept everything exactly the same and just made the graphics look a little bit better, that's a remaster. If they completely rebuilt the engine and the original game from the ground up again, that is a remake. Yes, what we have here is a remake, but it's not just a remake. Yeah, the 7 remake is not a remake. It is a reimagining. Final Fantasy VII reimagining. It's a story reimagined, which is essentially what it is. Hence the whole, once we go through here, not everything won't be the same. Things might change as you know it, right? The story has been reimagined. It's not a remake, it's a reimagined. Final Fantasy VII reimagined / retconned. Now, with Revelations coming out, I'll still get Revelations. I will still play Revelations. I will play through twice, just like I have done with both of these, to get the achievements and see what it's like on hard mode, right? I'm just not looking forward to the inevitable DLC for Revelations, where we play as Advent Children, fight Kadash and the crew. We play Dirge of Cerberus and cement Vincent as the strongest being in the 7 universe yet again. And I'm really looking forward to seeing how they're going to tie up everything that they've dropped in these 2 games in Revelation. But this in itself could be an entire video by itself, right? Which I might do in the future, who knows. But they're both C-tier games. Rebirth and Remake, the games themselves, if you cut out all the fluff and all the bollocks and everything that doesn't need to be there, doesn't need to be done, you're paying £60 for a 20-hour game, which just isn't worth it. I need more. The intel hunting sucks. Constantly having to fight in the combat arena, Chadley's combat arena, sucks. Right? There's no fun in that. Let me learn my abilities by just going out and attacking the enemy. Why do I need to do all my, like, the challenges? Why does the challenge have to be in there? Why can't they just change the background of where I'm doing it to make the challenge at least look like I'm doing it somewhere else, right? Like the Whis fight, and I can't even remember the last one from Rebirth. You fight all the Aeons. Like, at least make it look different. And my worry is now that Remake and Rebirth have set a precedent of how Revelations is going to turn out. It's going to be fluffed up to the gills. It's going to be completely ridiculous. They're going to cut out more areas. I'm hoping they don't, but they're probably just going to. I mean, we've already been told to get rid of Bone Village, so who knows? Who knows how they're going to change some of the characters? But this isn't about Revelations. This isn't about Remake and Rebirth, right? This CT, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have spent, like I say, I shouldn't have spent that long in Midgar in one game. When it comes to Rebirth, if you get rid of the fluff and just go story to story, like story point to story point to story point, no side quests, no fluff, none of that. You'll finish the game in 20 to 30 hours. It's not a long game. It's not a difficult game. Sorry, needed a drink there. And the parts that have changed haven't changed for the better. The biggest thing that screwed me on Rebirth, where I immediately knew I was going to be this far down, was the dying scene. Dying in Coral Prison. The big badass of Coral Prison, captured by Guts and his crew. Gus, G-U-S. Gus and his crew, tied up, one-on-one with Barrett, epic showdown, realization that, you know, he can't hold Marlene no more, his hands ain't clean. Offering himself to be with his wife, you know, suicide, threatening Barrett that he better not make Marlene cry. Barrett's absolute breakdown that his friend's dead, and, you know, he's got the realization that his hands aren't any cleaner. So yeah, sure, it's followed by a slightly goofy bit where we then go win a chocobo race, right? Absolutely fine, okay, not a problem at all, right? I understand the chocobo race is a little bit goofy compared to what's just happened, right? But it's all well within what we were told before we go and find Dying, right? And then Rebirth comes along, completely changes Dying's death, completely changes his death scene, sticks us in a stupid gimmicky fight against Palmer because they don't want us going to Rocketown for some reason where that fight's supposed to take place. Totally ruining the scene. Then even after that, having Dio and Rude grapple after Dio gives us after Dio gives us the Bronco. There was no need. But I can make an entire video on the reasons why I'm not a huge Remake and Rebirth fan, but still playing Revelations as well as, you know, what I think could appear in Revelations, but at the same time what I hope won't appear in Revelations, you know what I mean? But for now, this is my Final Fantasy tier list. And don't forget, this isn't my opinion, based on my enjoyment, right? We even bumped 7 from B tier to A tier, right? We even bumped it. But yeah, this is it. So, you know, MMOs are not played down there. D tier, self-explanatory. These are the ones that I had the least fun playing, right? C tier, the next ones I had the least fun playing. Say 16 could change though. 16 could move depending on whether or not how I feel when I finish the game. Right? I haven't finished the game yet, so depending on what's out there, you might see this and you might see it with everybody moved. Right? Well, not everybody, but 16 at the very least moved, right? B tier blank. Technically 7 should be in there, but it's not. A tier, again, self-explanatory really. 9, one of my favourites. Going in order. In the S tier, the game that for me cemented Final Fantasy as the series it is, which is 4. And I always get enjoyment playing it in 8. Now, if there's anything you change or anything you disagree with, please feel free to let me know. This has been a bit of a longer video than I was expecting, I'm going to be completely honest. Probably rambled a little bit more than I needed to, but if you've made it this far through, you know, drop a like, comment, think about subscribing, and let me know what you would change, or where you would change things to, or what you think of, you know, some of my thoughts on these games. But as always, ladies and gentlemen, I've been Thomas, this is Daddy Gladdy Gaming, signing off. Stay beautiful.